right, so Sam, Dyga, first of all, how long have you been working with TrueNorth?
I have been here just over 7 years.
I thought a while, and you've done a lot of different things. So what different capacities have you worked?
So I came to TrueNorth in a capacity as an AmeriCorps member, and I worked with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Yeah. So that's when we had our Boys and Girls Club here, so I worked in a lot of different capacities with that program too. As our youth programming shifted, I moved into more of just a Big Brothers Big Sisters role with Project FOUCUS, and so that transitioned into more working directly with Project FOUCUS. But I have done the MPSC grant too when it was just very small and we serviced Newaygo County, and that I think sums it up mostly.
So a lot of what you've done, the vast majority of what you've done is working with youth.
Yes.
Or at the very least working with programs that deal with youth. And a lot of it's been direct.
Absolutely.
Work with youth. So what have you noticed, this is kind of a broad question, but what have you noticed about kids today?
When I started working with kids, their excitement to explore was what drew me into them first of all. And so kids today, I think they still just have an excitement to want to learn, and they just want to do fun things.
Now, do you find that's more the case with the younger kids than the older kids? My experience, limited as it is as well,
sure,
is that they hit a certain age and they seemed like, especially when you get to the teen years, they're just like, become sullen teens.
Yeah.
But I don't know, somewhere along the line, kind of that excitement and fun kind of gets squeezed out of them or something, but I don't know. I think
it does, just because, well, so elementary kids, they just get excited about everything. You can do any type of science project with them and they are drawn in right from the get-go because they are excited to explore. Right. Middle school and high school kids still like to do that kind of thing, but they need a buy-in, so you have to develop relationships with them more and able to do that, to get them. Sure. But their excitement level is really just the same. If something's cool, they get just as geeked about it.
Maybe a little less willing to express that outwardly, but sure.
So they're not jumping up and down anymore, but like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. If a teen goes, oh, that's cool, that's a big deal. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, have you noticed, in your capacity, most of the work you've done has been with local kids, right? So is there a kind of a common need that you've seen? I mean, we're working with predominantly rural, predominantly lower income families. Is there an overarching need that you've seen with kids?
I definitely think, and I'm specific and passionate to after school programming, but I can just see in our other programs with camp and Big Brothers Big Sisters, they need a positive adult to connect to. Okay. So they need somebody that can provide them with resources, different experiences and opportunities to expand. And if they don't take advantage or we don't have these kind of programs around, they go home after school. Oftentimes they're unattended, they're playing video games, or just not able to explore as many things as they would.
Sure, and a lot of different reasons why a kid may or may not have that adult. It may just be that the parents are working. It may be they're from a single parent home, so there's only one parent there anyways, and they're working.
Right.
It may be that they're teens or middle school kids who just don't want to talk to their parents, and so even if they're there, they don't want to listen to them.
Exactly.
But they might listen to somebody who's younger and cool. Yep. So a lot of different reasons why that might happen. You also mentioned the thing about needing experiences, and it's interesting because Matt Painter, who won our Peggy Stone Award at the Community of Efforts, which is for her commitment to youth, said that in his interview, that what he sees kids really lacking are experiences, and especially when you live in a rural area where there's not a whole lot.
Right.
So they're what's the word I'm looking for? Opportunity for exposure is limited.
The accessibility of
there you go. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes. A lot of the kids that we work with have never been outside of Newaygo County.
Yes.
So going to Grand Rapids is a really big deal.
Yeah. I'm amazed by that. And I've lived here almost 22 years now, and I'm kind of used to it. But it took me a long time to get back into the rural mindset. Where amazing to hear kids have never been in a two-story building. Right. Never been on an escalator or an elevator. Have never been on an airplane. Never been in the city. All kinds of things that you just go, really? Yeah.
And growing up, I traveled around a lot, and to drive 45 minutes to Grand Rapids is no big deal, but it is for them, and all the experiences that go in with that too. A middle schooler knowing how to order off of a menu or things of that sort too. So just experiences that I took for granted where this is teachable for them. They need to learn how to do it.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was this idea of kids today, and I hate generalizing, but kids today we tended to raise kind of a coddled generation, it seems like. And one of the things that hopefully people who are watching this will read in the little camp blurb is about teaching kids to have grit. That it's okay to fail. We're the young people today are a generation where everyone gets a medal for participation and everyone gets a trophy. There's no winners, no losers, and I'm like, well, in life there kind of are.
Yeah.
But it's good to learn. It's okay to lose, and what can you learn from losing? And it's good to fail. It's okay to fail. What can you learn from failure? Have you seen that with kids?
Yeah, and they just get so discouraged. So if we're doing a project or out at camp, if they can't achieve some sort of element on the ropes course, I think that they just get really let down that they can't do it, and then they just want to give up because it's so scary to them. And I think,
is it scary, or is failure so scary?
I think failure is scary to them. Failure is scary to them, and that's where I think that the adult role models and program staff come into play, because they need that positive encouragement and push to go that next level and to give experiences too. Like, somebody can appear to have everything together, but I had to go, they can have these experiences that they can share with the kids on how many times they failed to get to that point. And I think that those conversations, and it takes a really long time too, and that's the other thing. In these programs, you just don't see that change happen in one summer or one school year. It takes a really long time for a kid to develop that grit.
Yeah.
And there's actually grit surveys where we can evaluate the kids on their grit.
So I've spent time talking with Dan Postema, who works with our FOUCUS group up in Hesperia. He's really big on science. He's a science geek. He'll be the first to tell you he loves that. Yeah. And he does a lot of STEM with his group, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. Right. And so I've got a chance to be up there and see him work with his kids doing like Lego robotics, and it's a lot of problem solving, which is exactly the kind of stuff that I think is really important. Tomorrow's leaders are going to be creative thinkers and creative problem solvers. We've got some big issues in the world. We need some creative problem solvers to figure this stuff out, and nothing fosters creative thinking like involvement in the arts. So that was always my push for the arts, but I think the same applies for things like teaching STEM and this whole idea of grit. Go ahead and fail. Try something and fail, and learn from it. What can you learn? And develop that creative thought process. Can you speak to that at all, and how important it is and what you've seen?
I think that it's so on target, because there's such a push for career college now too in all of these programs. So when you're preparing these kids, like you said, the arts are so creative to be able to find a spark or something to be able to free think. So STEM is great.
Free think, I like that.
Yeah. So STEM is great, and so they're moving towards a STEAM too, to actually put the arts into the STEM component of it. Yeah.
I love that.
So something else that's new and coming in after-school programming that we're establishing at our sites is these things called maker spaces, and it's exactly just that. So it's a room full of anything you can think of: hardware, nails, screws, art supplies such as popsicle sticks, cups, but then electronic components. Maybe there's a couple of VCRs that kids are taking apart. And so they're building things, so they're putting an electrical component together, but then creating something with their hands too. So you go and you set them in there and you say, you can either give them an objective, or you just let them create. And I think they don't have the time to do that, especially middle school, high school. So it's a space, it's a time to just go in and reignite some of that creativity that they have, and they can figure stuff out, and they have to try over and over again. So if their car wash didn't work the first time, what do you do differently? How do you do things differently? So we've done STEM competitions too, and they really like that because they get to compete and, bridge building, what holds the most weight. Structured, it's intentional. Yeah.
Good words. Oh, speak to the challenges that you see kids face, because they come from, not all of them, but large chunks of them come from poorer or lower income families in a rural environment. How have you seen that affect kids, and more importantly, how have you seen what we do with our programming overcome that? I guess?
So stress, economic, or jobs, or any of that sort. So in after school, we provide them a meal. And it's a lot of kids' only meal after the school day
Right.
that they get to have Monday through Thursday. Quiet time for homework. So if they're maybe more transient or they're doubling up, they might not have their own space to actually do homework.
And just so everyone knows what that means, sometimes people who are technically homeless are doubled up. They may be living with a family member, so you have two families living in one home.
Right.
You've got kids sharing beds, sharing floor space. So okay.
Yep. So that provides just quiet, structured, intentional time to focus on them and what their needs academically are. And then the enrichment aspect of it is just exploration for them too, so they're getting stuff out of it. We bus home. If our programs didn't bus home, we would not nearly have the attendance that we
Right.
do. Transportation is huge in this county, so even when we offer maybe an extracurricular or a field trip option, we have less attendance on those because parents have a hard time getting to and from the school to pick
Sure.
their kids up.
Which speaks directly to your point you made earlier about accessibility.
Yeah.
So the fact that True North addresses all of these issues. So you may have a kid in an after-school programming, for example, whose family has been assisted in any number of ways through any number of other programs that True North offers. And you may not even be aware of that.
Yeah,
Right.
well, to a certain extent, now that I'm getting into our special projects program for Tools for
Right.
Schools is coming up, as I search each application, I can see if they've been served. So they've been served Food Pantry and Empower. So our services really are overarching
And
and
crossing over.
wrapping around,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I wanted to touch on that also. That's a new thing you're doing now, is
Yeah.
you're doing special project stuff, which includes Tools for Schools, Coach for Kids, and Children's Christmas. So 3 huge programs that are mostly kid-based.
Yeah. Well, I think that as I got into it, it just surprised me how many kids that we serve at each event. It's massive. And the tools is so important because being ready for school
Exactly.
is a really big deal. I remember going on the first day of school and what you wore was really important, and your
Right.
new backpack and your shoes.
And it seems
You know,
stupid to
it
some people.
does.
That's dumb, but you know what? It's not. And,
To
and,
kids,
and apart
it's
from,
not.
and to some degree, I can totally agree. I go, well, you don't need designer clothes. But the simple fact of the matter is, if I walk into school with a plastic bag with one pencil and one pen,
Yeah.
I can't possibly do my homework and do all the same stuff. So, and then having the stuff, a backpack to carry it all around
Right.
with. But the school supplies, a backpack and school supplies can cost,
$40 to $50 probably in just those school supplies and a backpack to get
well,
started.
a backpack alone can cost $30-40.
Right, yeah.
And then another $20-30. You could spend $100 easy
Oh, easy.
per kid
Yep.
getting them a new backpack and school supplies. And anyone who has kids knows that a backpack's not going to make it more than a year or two at most.
Right.
Just because they get used so much.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
that's a huge piece of the ability to be successful at school, is you have to have the same
Yeah.
tools. And it's not fair that just because a kid comes from a poor family, he shouldn't have the same tools that the kid who comes from a wealthy family has.
Yeah.
It's just not fair.
No, it's because they're assessed on the same thing,
Exactly.
on the same scale, and all
Yes.
of these things. They're graded in the same context. And so why not set everybody up with those same resources? Because you're just doing a disservice if you're not.
Or at the very
Yeah.
least, helping to bridge the gap so
Yeah.
that they can start on a level playing field. I think that's a term we always use.
I think so.
Coach for Kids, another thing. If you got a kid who's going through the winter without an adequate warm coat on, that's huge. They're waiting out for a school bus. They're freezing cold. That's that stress and that tension, all that stuff, and the health issues alone.
Well, the health is exactly too. So if they're not adequately clothed and prepared for the winter months, they're probably getting sick more often or things of that sort. Just the elements that they have to go through. They're missing school, and
Yep.
so they're losing content.
So I'll ask you this. I guess that's kind of a wrap-up final question. In keeping with our Be the Cause campaign that we're talking about, what brings you back every day? Why do you keep doing this? Because you could work a lot of other places and do a lot of other things and probably make more money. But
Yeah.
why do you stay here?
Well, I really enjoy
Just because.
because our why statement, because every youth deserves a place to grow into their best self, is just so true and resonates with me. I've fallen in love with being able to serve these rural youth and make sure that they have the resources and the opportunities to be at a level playing field with every other kid across the country. So what can we do to spark any kind of passion in them that will lead to a career and college decision, whatever is right for them? And so it's by conversation, and I love being able to mentor my staff to be able to provide better service to them, and collaborating with everybody else in the agency too, on those wraparound services. So you can talk to a caseworker who knows your family,
Right.
and you serve them better. And I guess that's what brings me back every day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks very
Thanks.
much.